Bobby H.
Good morning, guys. Today, Maya Angelou reminds us of one of our greatest powers, and it's something we can always do anywhere we are, and it is the power to lift people up. So let's try this today. Let's look at our day as it begins. Let's think ahead and envision the people that we may interact with today in our normal course of things. And let's try to really apply the strategy of lifting people up. How do we do this? One thing we have to remember is that our words are so powerful. As Maya Angelou reminds us, all you have to do is show courtesy in your speech. When you talk to someone in a way that is respectful, courteous, and shows belief in them and their true greatness, that's what they start to believe, and that's what enriches you as being that. So the way we want to be treated is the way we should treat others. Let's try that today. Have a great day, everyone.
If you're sitting down and you start thinking about some future worst case scenario that you're conjuring up in your mind, and you begin to feel the emotion of that event, your body doesn't know the difference between the event that's taking place in your world, outer world, and what you're creating by emotion or thought alone. So most people then, they're constantly reaffirming their emotional states. So when it comes time to give up that emotion, they can say, I really want to do it, but really the body is stronger than the mind because it's been conditioned that way. So the servant now has become the master, and the person all of a sudden, once they step into that unknown, they'd rather feel guilt and suffering because at least they can predict it. Being in the unknown is a scary place for most people because the unknown is uncertain. People say to me, well, I can't predict my future. I'm in the unknown, and I always say the best way to predict your future is to create it. Not from the known, but from the unknown. What thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate in one day? The act of rehearsing them mentally, closing your eyes, and rehearsing the action.
Rehearsing the reaction of what you want, or
the action of what you want. By closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing some action. If you're truly present, the brain does not know the difference between what you're imaging and what you're experiencing in 3D world. So then you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. Now, your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. And if you keep doing it, priming it that way, the hardware becomes a software program, and who knows, you just may start acting like a happy person.
The whole point of being an entrepreneur is to create your own future. That's why we start our own businesses. We want to build a new world. We want to be the change that we want to see, right? Why do you start a company? Why do you become an entrepreneur? Because there's a problem in the world that you don't like, that you want to fix, and you want to see it change. That's why we do what we do. The challenge is, how do you consistently believe in it? You know, because you have these moments, these days when you love it and you're on top of the world and you're on fire and you're motivated and you can do this, and then most days you'll wake up and feel like, who am I? I can't do this. I'm not good enough, and it's not going to happen, right? Has it happened to you? It's this roller coaster ride of ups and downs, of emotion and just belief that it's possible for you. I got asked yesterday, how did you make so many great contacts with huge people at the beginning of your career? And the answer is, I didn't. I didn't. I struggled at the beginning. I was nervous and shy and afraid and felt not good enough and never reached out to people. It was a long journey. One of the only reasons why I had any level of success is I just kept going. You know, 5 years in and having 7,000 subscribers, I just kept going. I just kept making. And I started entrepreneurship, thought leadership at 22 when I started making content. 22, I'm now 42 by the time this video comes up. So 20 years of making content. You know, eventually you make some connections and get good at something, but hopefully the process can be a lot faster for you. And the way through it is, I think, the environment. It's like, okay, how do you fix it? Well, environment. How do you consistently believe in yourself is the environment. It's what you're surrounding yourself with. It's the people in your life. It's the videos you're watching. It's the content you're consuming. It's the people you follow on Instagram. It's the environment. That when you are around the people that make you feel like things are possible, you will start to feel like things are possible. It's like whoever is more confident wins. So if you're around people who are constantly negative, telling you can't do it, gave up on their dreams, the chances of you being able to go chase your dreams around those people is really low. It's not impossible, but it's really low. And I think the people who've killed the most dreams are the people around us, right? Your parents, your friends, your environment, your community. They've killed your dreams. And ultimately, yes, it's your responsibility, but hanging around them and injecting their, not that they're haters or bad people, just their limited thinking and their unhappiness, right? They're hurt. They're struggling themselves. They don't like their own life, and they're scared. They feel trapped. And so when you're in that position of fear and trapped and scared, you don't make good decisions, and you also don't give great advice. And so how do we fix it? A couple things that I wish I did earlier, and so maybe you can use this as counsel to help you believe in yourself more consistently. So number one is to limit access or cut out the people who are feeding you negativity. If you're hanging around people who just make you feel worse about yourself, that every time you talk about your career, your dreams, or what you want to build, they tell you that it can't be done, that it's not possible, then limit access or just cut those people out of your life. It's just not worth it. And I say give the option because, you know, maybe that's your mom telling you that. Maybe that's somebody close to you telling you that. And some people do take the step to cut their parents out. That may not be how far you want to go, but at least limiting access so that if you're going to hang out with your mom, you're just not talking about your career. You're just not talking about your business. There's hopefully other things that you can connect on besides just what you're doing for a living or what your goals are, right? So cut those people out or limit access severely so that you don't feel so negative all the time. I think it's really important. Okay, so that then creates a void. Okay, well now who am I hanging out with? Because if you actually did an audit of the people in your life, you'd probably find that most of the people are not the ones that fill you up. You're the ones filling other people up. So we need to start finding people who do fill us up. So step two is to then join groups and to be around people and to be around the communities that are at least like-minded. You know, as somebody who's introverted and shy myself, it can be really hard. And I think as adults, it can be really hard to make new friends. You know, we're not going to school anymore. And so it can be hard to break into new communities. And so the easiest way to do that, especially if you're introverted and shy like me, is to join communities. So for me, I joined salsa dance school that I later bought. That's how I met my wife, Nina. I would join entrepreneur clubs. I would join, if I wanted to meet new people, I would join anything that I'm interested in, right? I'd look for any entrepreneur conferences, personal development. events or clubs, any book signings, just looking at trying to start to connect with people who are more optimistic and more happy and more positive, and just try to be around them more often. And the goal of going to an event like that isn't to even necessarily learn something. I think it's just to be able to connect with people. And if you go to a networking event, you go to a conference or some kind of personal development session, hopefully you're learning something, but make the goal to just try to meet somebody. Like there's one person here who might be the friend that you need, who might be the business partner that you need, might be the co-founder that you need. There's one person here that might be everything that you need, and you don't need to know all 1,000 people here. You just have to make one meaningful connection that maybe that turns into a mastermind or business partner or coffee meetups that can allow you to sustain the momentum and the belief that it's possible. That being around somebody else where there's 1 + 1 = 48, because the energy you create together. And the way to do that audit for yourself is just to think about, when I leave this person, do I feel more or less alive? Do I have more or less energy? Do I have more or less belief in myself? And when you have the people around you who make you have more energy and more belief in yourself, then you're more likely to go out and create your own future and create the world that you want to create, right? Where most of the people, again, we are pouring love and energy into them, and that's amazing, and keep doing that, and that's service, and that's awesome. But that can't be the only people in your life, because then you just are pouring into others and nobody's pouring into you. And so we need to start to add in those people, and they're out there. They're out there. They're for sure out there. I see it all the time in movement makers. That's my membership group for people who want to be thought leaders, and we meet every 2 weeks, and I train them and I help them. And more important than even just the education or knowledge they get from me is the connection and community to each other, where they're going live together. There's certain businesses together. They're sitting there making content, in their garage or their basement or their office, their home and their kitchen. And their family might be saying, "What are you doing making these YouTube videos? Are you crazy?" And now they're around other people who are doing the same thing as them. And it just breathes life and hope and possibility, because you've got a great heart and a great soul and great opportunities in front of you, and you want to serve, and it can happen. It can happen. It can happen for you. But again, your environment probably doesn't support it. And so it's now instead of blaming the environment and blaming your parents and everybody else, it's making a conscious choice to change the environment. So again, step 1 is to remove or limit access of the people who are making you feel worse about yourself when you talk about your dreams and your goals and your ambitions. Step 2 is to supplement in new people who do make you feel better, who make you feel more alive. And again, whether you're going to an event or conferences or joining a group like Mover Makers, but you're part of a community, so it's not just you doing it all on your own. Honestly, it's probably my biggest mistake when I was starting my journey, is just trying to do everything myself, mostly out of fear and insecurity, and being shy and afraid. But hopefully you can get there a lot faster, and that propels your growth forward. And then number 3 is be really conscious of what you're feeding into your mind with the content you consume. And so I think we have this wonderful opportunity on a daily basis to choose education or choose entertainment or choose creating a new world that we want and consuming the knowledge that allows us to build it, or escaping a world that we don't like anymore. Like if you see a problem in the world, you have a problem in your life, do you choose to fix it, to work towards it, or do you choose to just kind of ignore it and try to shut off the world, right? Most people will try to shut off the world and just be entertained, as opposed to, no, we got to fix this. We got to do something about this. And so think about the videos you watch. You're watching this video, so you're already on the path, but do an audit of everybody that you follow, do an audit of the channels that you subscribe to, do an audit of where you're spending your time, and see how much of it, how many of the channels that you subscribe to on YouTube, how many of the videos that you watch on YouTube are helping you build a better future for yourself, are training you to be a better person, giving you the skills and the knowledge to actually go and make that change, versus how many of the videos are you watching that are just pure entertainment or just shutting off your brain and shutting off the world and pretending like the problems that you've got and you want to solve don't exist, right? And I'm not suggesting that you never have entertainment. Just switch the ratio. If you want to change the world, if you want to create a new future for yourself, for your family, for the people around you, if you actually want to do that, then you have to start to change what you're feeding into your mind. And again, this channel is a great start. You're all the way through this video, so you're already on the path. And I mean, it's amazing. It's worth celebrating. You know, high five to yourself there. Congratulations. And it's the consistency that matters the most. So what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing the next day? What videos are you watching the day after that? What videos are you watching next week and next month? And making that consistent, because again, it's easy to get excited. As entrepreneurs, it's easy to get excited and have one day where you feel on top of the world and amazing and holy cow, I can do so much and so many opportunities. And then it's easy again to the next day wake up and feel hopeless and impossible, and who are you to do this, and I can't do that, and there's no way that it's going to happen, and why did I think this is, what a stupid decision, right? We beat ourselves up. And so that consistency in the environment is the thing that will make a difference. Let me tell you this, if you were hanging around people, even just one person who was always working out, who was always fit, they would, even without them telling you, you would become more fit. You would work out more because you're around them, because the environment they create, if you respect them, would be one where you would now just want to work out more. And so it's the same thing for your dreams. When you are not around the people who are negative and who are trapped and who are in a lot of pain, and when you add in people and content that makes you feel alive and hope and possibilities and belief, great things start to happen. Great things start to happen. But it has to be consistent. A one-off video is not enough. Every day, put it into your calendar that whether it's a human being that you're actually talking to or content that you're feeding into your mind, that you're gonna show more belief in yourself, because your mission matters, because your heart matters, because you have a gift that the world needs, and because you want to create a new future, a better future for yourself, for your family, for the world.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Good afternoon, guys. How's it going today? Have we been able to lift one person up? Or at the very least, have we been able to lift ourselves up by using our powerful thoughts? And again, I am reminding you of your power to believe that you can do this, that you right now, wherever you are, can take control of your thoughts. So you may be going through a difficult day. You may be in a challenging moment right now. Go back at it again. As I've said before, it's determination. It's that spirit of going back and learning. What could I have done differently? And it all connects to our thoughts. And then our thoughts are represented by the symbols of our words. So it's not over yet. Go back at it and try to lift someone up. If not, if you're not with people today, lift yourself up. Remind yourself of how powerful you are. And you're in charge. You're in control. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Fruit juices dramatically increase the risk of cancer.
What is one thing that you believe about energy that most people don't?
There's no human need for fruit, just ask an Eskimo. If you want more energy for your workout in the morning, the last thing you want is a fruit smoothie.
Today's episode of Model to Masters is brought to you by TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is your best friend on your road to YouTube success. I use it every day on my channel to get more views and subscribers, automate the boring tasks, and split test my thumbnails and titles. I've done over 3,800 split tests, which have led to results like taking this 5-year-old video that was getting 250 views a day, and just by changing the thumbnail, it blew up to 15,000 views per day. You can get started on TubeBuddy for free at tubebuddy.com/Evan.
And there he is, Dr.
Hey.
Gundry. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm great. So if you guys don't know Dr. Gundry, he is a 4-time New York Times bestselling author. He is the founder of Gundry MD. I take some of this every single morning. I got a bunch of other stuff here. The 5,000 IUs of vitamin D was a new number to me, so that's crazy. And he's the host of the Dr. Gundry podcast as well. And he's going to be on to talk about health and his new book coming up, The Energy Paradox. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what is one thing that you believe about energy that most people don't or might even find radical?
About half the people that I've seen in my practice over the last 20 years actually admit to a diagnosis of fatigue and malaise. And that actually surprised me when I first started doing this over 20 years ago. And we did an informal survey at Gundry MD, and the two number one, wishes and complaints was to have more energy and reduced fatigue. So it's a fascinating, I think, underlooked and undervalued epidemic in this country. Part of the problem is that I think so many of my colleagues in medicine, number one, are overworked. And they view, I guess, being tired or not having a lot of energy as kind of par for the course. And particularly a ton of my women patients are dismissed by, I think, well-meaning health practitioners that, oh, you got 2 kids, you're working a job, maybe you're about to go through, the change, and this is all normal. And just suck it up and have another double espresso, and you'll be okay. But that's actually not normal.
And I know you're an advocate of coffee, just without the sugar and without the milk, was it A1 milk? What's the kind of milk we're not supposed to have?
Yeah, don't have A1 milk.
Don't have A1 milk.
Is okay.
So people are so used to being stressed out and just, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll just take another shot of Red Bull or something. And from the book you said, where was it? How to stop being sick and tired and finally feel good again. So what is top level, some of the recommendations you give people that they may not immediately recognize as being actually valuable for them?
Well, some of the things, I started talking about recently with Lewis Howes, and had just a wonderful throwback that I basically said, hey, one of the biggest problems in our diet right now is the amount of fructose in our diet. And one of the places that fructose is in our diet that people really don't recognize is the amount of fruit that we currently have in our diet. And Lewis got a lot of pushback on letting me say that, but this isn't something I just invented. This isn't my first rodeo. Right. And I didn't just get off the turnip truck. This is actually, number one, my clinic results that I've published, looking at patients for the last 20 years and manipulating their diet. Turns out that fructose, which is the sugar in fruit, is very different than glucose in how we make energy out of fructose. And fructose is so interesting in how it's handled. So I got interested in this years ago when I was researching human evolution. And great apes, and believe it or not, we're considered a great ape, are the only time they ever gain weight during the year is during fruit season. And Even in the jungle, fruit ripens once a year. And great apes eat fruit to gain weight for the winter. And winter is a time of less food, whether it's a dry season, a rainy season, a cold season. It doesn't matter. There's always a season or two where there's significantly less food. And one of the fascinating things that I learned about fructose is its ability to be made directly in our liver into fat, and that fat is triglyceride. The other thing that's unique about fructose is that normally energy production comes from making ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And there's AMP, and then there's ADP, so adenosine monophosphate, adenosine diphosphate, and then we make it into ATP. What's unique about fructose is that fructose actually stops AMP from being made into ATP and instead takes AMP and makes uric acid, which is actually what causes gout and also raises blood pressure and also damages kidneys. So fructose actually hijacks our energy production. Now, this wouldn't have mattered even 100 years ago when fruit for humans was really only available once a year in summer and early fall. And we could use that, like great apes, to gain weight for the winter. But now, unfortunately, we have fruit or fruit derivatives like juices 365 days a year. And that's actually abnormal. Now, the other thing that is scary is that the amount of fructose in our fruits has been maximized by hybridization through the years. And for instance, a cup of grapes has anywhere from 22 to 25 grams of fructose in that cup of grapes. Now, to give people an idea of what that means, there's 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon of sugar. So that, let's take 25 as a typical cup of grapes. So let's divide that by 4. So there's about 6 teaspoons of sugar in that cup of grapes. And yeah, I mean, 6 teaspoons of sugar. And we go, well, but grapes are healthy. Well, yeah, they were healthy a long time ago when they weren't plumped up to be giant, sugar bombs. And I'll use the word sugar bomb again. I'm sorry. Blueberries. When I was growing up a long time ago, blueberries were these little bitter things that were so bitter that you had to pour a half a cup of sugar on them to make them edible, which was great. Now they've been bred for size. I can go to the farmer's market in Santa Barbara and I can find organic blueberries of the size of grapes.
Yeah.
And blueberries now have a considerable higher fructose content than ever before. In fact, the lowest fructose content fruits are actually raspberries and blackberries, followed by strawberries. But blueberries, which used to be some of the lowest, now there's about 10 grams of sugar per 100 per a cup of blueberries now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is the recommendation moderation? Is the recommendation just nothing until?
Book, my initial book, Dr. Gundry's Diet Evolution, was give fruit the boot. First of all, there's no human need for fruit. Just ask an Eskimo. The idea that, and believe me, if some people call me the father of the carnivore diet because in my quest to get lectins out of people's diets, the obvious ultimate lectin and elimination diet is the carnivore diet because you don't eat any fruits or vegetables. And I'm not the father of the carnivore diet, by the way. But so the idea that we have to have fruit in our diet is first of all, not true. And the idea that we need fruit every day in our diet goes against any hunter-gatherer society and our society up until the last few years. The Hansa, who have been studied extensively, only eat fruit during season. And when they eat a ton of it. And, all of my keto colleagues, do you really think that our ancestors, when they found a beehive or they found a fruit tree, said, oh my gosh, I can't have this fruit. I'm not going to gorge on it because I have to stay in ketosis? I mean, really? Of course not. Remember, we're a fruit predator. I like to remind people, the reason we have color vision and your dog doesn't have color vision is we are a fruit predator. We're designed to eat fruit, and we're designed to recognize from the plant when the plant actually wants us to eat its fruit, when its babies are protected. And the cool thing about fructose is that fructose doesn't initially raise insulin. And we can eat tons of fruit without getting full, which, if we were fattening up for the winter, would have been a really great idea. The other thing to remember is 2/3 of our tongue has sweet receptors. And that's why when we found fruit, it would have been a really good idea to just gorge on this stuff. And so I'm not anti-fruit. And in fact, all my books, please, have fruit in moderation in season. And please, season is not 365 days a year.
So we're fattening up, but there's no winter.
Yeah. And, sadly, the British Medical Journal recently published a long-term study looking at the correlation with sweetened beverages, including fruit juices, directly correlating to the incidence of cancer in a 25-year study. And even fruit juices dramatically increase the risk of cancer. And, why? Because, first of all, let's go down, I live near San Diego. My parents retired in San Diego. Let's go to the San Diego Zoo and look in all the cages. And you won't find a juicer in any of the cages. And because an animal doesn't drink juice. So we're unfortunately mainlining juices, sugars that we would have never before. And on one of my podcasts, speaking of like COVID, one of the things that's fascinating is that fructose in orange juice dramatically suppresses the ability of white blood cells to eat viruses and eat bacteria for up to 5.5 hours after you drink a glass of orange juice. So that the idea that these things are, health foods has unfortunately, it's just unfortunately incorrect.
You've talked a lot about how diseases start in the gut. How do you get your gut tested? I did the uBiome test a couple of years ago. They now are out of business, maybe questionable science or not. But how do you recommend people actually test to see if their gut is okay or not?
Yeah, so, Hippocrates basically said that all disease begins in the gut. And that was 2,500 years ago, and he was absolutely right. He didn't have the Human Microbiome Project to teach him this. But, the longer I've done this now, for instance, if you had asked me 15 years ago what I thought about leaky gut, I would have told you it was pseudoscience and voodoo. But now, because you can test leaky gut, and thanks to the work of, among other people, Dr. Pisano from Harvard, you can test for the breakdown of the tight junctions that hold our intestinal barrier together. I use a company called Vibrant America. They, a few years ago, they came up with these tests. I don't know who their marketing person is. Maybe you could advise them, but they're called Zoomers. And that's a stupid name. So the original test was called a wheat zoomer, and it looked not only for markers of leaky gut, it looked for celiac markers, but it looked for all the components of wheat, barley, and rye, which, among other components, are gluten, and gluten happens to be a lectin. But then they expanded those tests to look at corn. I recently published a paper in the American Heart Journal that 70% of people who are sensitive to gluten cross-react with corn. And they actually cross-react with the proteins and think when they're eating corn that they're eating gluten. Yeah, 70%. And then they developed a lectin zoomer. Imagine who they did that for. And then there's a milk zoomer, and there is a egg zoomer, and there's also a really cool test called a neurozoomer. And one of the things I've learned from the neurozoomer is that if you have a leaky gut, there's a pretty good chance that you also have a leaky brain. And as bad as a leaky gut sounds, let me tell you, if you got a leaky brain, that's not a good thing. Normally, we have a very tight blood-brain barrier where very little can get across into our brain. In fact, it's another subject. It's another subject in the energy paradox where ketones are what our brain uses because normally our mitochondria, if they're working properly, can shift from using glucose as a fuel to burning free fatty acids as a fuel, fat from our fat cells. Unfortunately, the blood-brain barrier is very difficult to get free fatty acids across our blood-brain barrier. It turns out the mitochondria in the brain can burn free fatty acids, but the blood-brain barrier pretty much keeps them out. Ketones, on the other hand, can get across the blood-brain barrier. So one of the fascinating little tidbits that people learn in the energy paradox is that if you're doing everything right, for 12 hours out of the day, we will normally produce ketones in our liver for the sole purpose only of letting our brain have something to eat when we run out of glucose. But what most people don't realize is that brain is such a glucose hog that even at full ketosis, the brain can only get about 70% of its energy needs supplied by ketones. And it still requires about 30% from glucose, from gluconeogenesis from the liver. Wonderful nerdy stuff. Sorry.
No, I know. I like it. I like it.
Good evening, guys. How did it go today? Think about your day. Were you able to have at least one victory, one win, where you lifted someone else up? Or if not someone else, yourself? Well, I want to share a personal story with you because, as we've said before, this stuff is really hard. It's really hard to apply even one positive thought energy like lifting people up. And so I want to share my story with you. And this is an example of how hard it is and how we have to work on it every single day. I begin every day by starting off and listening to Les Brown's speech at the Georgia Dome as I'm cooking my breakfast. Because I know and I can feel in my mind, there's thoughts that are trying to come back and attack me and show the negative side of things, the fearful side of what might happen. But when I listen to Les's powerful voice, it reminds me, it lifts me up. And so do what you have to do. Listen to whatever you have to do to lift you up. Have a great evening, everyone.
Finite mindset is everything is about this transaction, this listing. An infinite mindset is I may win or lose this game, I may win or lose this transaction, and there'll be another one. And the goal is not to win this one. The goal is to be better. And what happens is you win more often.
See, and where I struggle with that, honestly, is I want to crush it every time.
You're a highly competitive A-type personality, I get it. But if that's all you do, you're not going to be in the game for very long. But this is my point. In the infinite game, the infinite mindset is about having the strength, the will, and the resources. Will is I really still enjoy this industry. And the resources is I got the money to stay in the game. If you run out of will, you run out of resources, you find a different line of work, right? The goal is not to win every game. The goal is to stay in the game as long as possible. And you're more likely to stay in the game as long as possible if you're enjoying it and if you're making money. Think of those agents who are better than you, whether they're better marketers or better salesperson, or they have more recommendations. And again, you don't have to like them. You have to thank them and study them and learn what they're doing, as I said, because their strengths are revealing to you your weaknesses. And sometimes partner with them because you're actually stronger together. But hating them is stupid. All it does is make you focus on them rather than focus on yourself. All it does is make you focus and sit around with your friends and be like, but they don't do this. Well, you're not doing any of that either, you know? So it puts all your focus in all the wrong places. You know what it's like if you ski through trees? Every skier knows this. If you say, don't hit a tree, you hit a tree because all you're doing is looking at trees. Where when you're skiing through trees and you say, follow the path, you don't hit a tree because you're only looking at the path. So your mindset is if all you're doing is focusing on them, then you're hitting trees is what you're doing. You're focusing on all the things that make you weak rather than focusing on all the things that make you better.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Simon Sinek, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, be authentic.
A term that's been overused in business, this concept of authenticity, right? All that authenticity means is the things you say and the things you do, you actually believe. And there's a lot of room for cynicism in the financial advisor world, because every financial advisor says the right thing. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you find your nest egg to achieve your financial goals, blah, 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 blah. Every financial advisor I've ever met tells me the same thing. But then the way they make me feel, not always consistent. Where they may say the right things, but then they're not actually listening to the things that I want. I can feel that they're just trying to hammer a product. They're not actually trying to do what I talk about, but rather I can feel that they have an agenda, that they're pushing something on me. And so, we're highly attuned social animals. We can tell the difference. And if somebody's going to put their agenda, their commission, their interests first, then stop saying, I'm here to help you and achieve your financial goals because I care about you. Stop saying those words. I don't have a problem with somebody being selfishly minded when they approach their business. Just stop pretending that you're not. Because the ones that truly do care will be way more creative. If they say, I'm truly trying to help you, they'll be offering advice and forwarding articles that have nothing to do with the financial tools that you can buy from me. I might send you an article about, your teenagers and screen time, for example, because that's one of the things you're concerned about, and I'm here to help you live a better life. Like, I may be more curious about all of the aspects about helping you, of which some are the things that I can deliver on with a financial advice and some financial tools. So I think if you got into this business to help people, then help people. I think that's really, really important.
Rule number 3, build a successful culture.
I think one of the things that the pandemic revealed, quite frankly, was the weakness of so many corporate cultures. I mean, we're seeing the great resignation happening. And if you read articles or listen to some of the talking heads, the prevailing thought is, well, they're getting, checks from the government, so they're not encouraged to come back to work. Or they're pursuing their dreams, which we've seen as well in our own company. Somebody wants to go be a screenwriter, and even though we have a great relationship and they love their job, they want to pursue their dreams. But the other thing that I think is underlying that it's missing, that these commentaries are missing, is that the cultures may have been weaker than we like to think they are. That the sense of belonging that people have when they would come to work is actually a lot more tenuous than we'd like to believe. So the bond that's allowing them to go off and do other things is easily broken. I think strong cultures, when there's a strong corporate culture, we recognize that I can pursue my dreams and work because I love it here and I know my team is supportive of me becoming a screenwriter or something, and I can do both. Or even though I'm making money, potentially even more money, There's so much more I get from my work. You know, the camaraderie, the love, the support. I get all of this training on how to be a better listener and a better communicator, which is helping me in my marriage and helping me with my kids. And I don't want to lose that. Plus, I have close friends at work, and I can speak up and say, hey, I'm being offered more money from the government. Is there anything you can help? You know, the point is it becomes a conversation rather than a resignation. So I think one of the things that we're missing is this might be a wake-up call for a lot of companies, that our cultures are just not as strong as we think they are. You know, it's been spoken about for years that millennials, you know, and now Gen Z are just not loyal to work. They bounce around from job year to year to year. Well, is that them or is that us? Maybe if we had stronger cultures, they wouldn't want to leave. Maybe if we offered them more than simply financial incentives for hitting certain numbers, that they'd want to stay. Maybe if they felt that they were growing like as human beings, there would be things that were more appealing to them than simply a bigger paycheck somewhere else. So I actually think it's a big wake-up call, frankly, that we should go back and look at our cultures and say, are we as good as we think we are?
Rule number 4, establish resilience.
We always talk about being a stable company, and we talk about investing in stable companies, and you know, are you stable? And you think about stability. Stability is an immobile object, you know, and so companies that are built for stability, yes, they're able to weather storms, but they don't come out stronger or better. They just come out. They get through. Building a company for resilience means that you go into darkness, but you're actually able to adapt for new times, new technologies, new cultures, new politics, new tastes, and you come actually out of the hard times stronger than you went in. Victorinox is a great example. Victorinox, many of us know them by their signature product, which is the old Swiss Army knife. And this company basically made a name for themselves on this basically one line of product. And they had other product, but this was the core. And then something happened that they couldn't predict, nor could they prepare for, which is September 11th happened. And overnight, we were banned from taking their product in our bags, in our hand luggage or in our pockets. And so many of us used to carry a Swiss Army knife in our pockets or just throw one in our hand luggage. Like we all had one. You know, every birthday for every teenager, they got at least one, right? Every corporate gift, you had a couple of Swiss Army knives. And now we were banned from carrying them, which means you're less likely to buy one to give as a gift. And so their business plummeted overnight through no fault of their own, through no market conditions, nothing predictable. But the genius of Victorinox is that they were built for resilience. And what they did was they, in good times, instead of giving away all the money in big bonuses, in good times, they actually saved a ton of money. And their attitude was, good times don't last, but neither do bad times. And if we want to get through bad times, we need cash. And so instead of panicking and taking loans or whatever it is, they had their own stack of cash that they'd been hoarding. So they had a little financial resilience. But then they looked at other products and they asked their people to help build up. And they started investing heavily in watches. Now we have Victorinox watches, which are much more, and it's still Swiss made, everything that they could do, everything that they knew how to do, clothing, everything, they leveraged their brand heavily and they built it back up. Also, they protected all of their people. They actually made deals with companies prior that if bad times ever happened, that other companies would borrow their employees, which I thought was genius. So they didn't lose their jobs, they just did their jobs somewhere else. And they completely reinvented their company. Now, to this day, their Swiss Army knife never really recovered. It came up back a bit, but it's now not the major product. It's a minor product that they sell because they actually came out stronger and reinvented. And to be able to do that, think about that. Coming in as one kind of company and coming out of as another kind of company, very, very rare and very, very special, but very infinite-minded.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, practice emotional professionalism.